Welcome to the Cup of Joe Show, where we explore the journey of recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. One story, one conversation, and one step at a time. I'm your host, Joe, creating a safe space for honest discussions about the challenges and triumphs of addiction and alcoholism. In each episode, we'll hear inspiring stories and uncover tools that make healing possible. Sobriety is not a one-size-fits-all journey, and you don't have to face it alone. Recovery is possible, and it's worth it. Thank you for joining the Cup of Joe Show. Now let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Cup of Joe Show. I'm your host, of course, Joe. And I want you to know if you are out there struggling right now, please reach out for help. You don't have to suffer in silence. I'm really excited about my guest today. It's my good friend, Matt F. Matt's been sober since June 30th, 2004. He's a husband, a father of three, and a man whose life reflects what long-term recovery can look like. After finding his way into Alcoholics Anonymous in Naples, Florida, Matt discovered something more than sobriety. He found a new way to live. Through surrender, service, and a growing relationship with a higher power, he's built a life centered around family, spirituality, and helping others. In fact, Matt was my sponsor for a period of time because he has something that I wanted. And I think once you hear his story, you'll understand exactly what I mean. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. Hey, Matt, how you doing today?
Joseph, my broseph, I don't know. It just keeps getting better. It's so good to see you and hear the nice words that I still don't feel worthy of, but I like to hear them anyway.
Well, I will tell you, the outside looking in, you are definitely worthy of them, man. And it's so good to see you. I'll probably get a little emotional. Now it's hitting me, brother. It's hitting me
Right.
that you're actually on the podcast. So what was it like growing up, Matt?
Whew. It was an uncomfortable place for sure. Now, I grew up in Florida. I was the oldest of. I have a brother and sister younger than me, so I was the oldest. Grew up in Naples, Florida. My dad was pretty overbearing. He was an alcoholic. He did find recovery off and on throughout his life, but he was a lot. And our house was a little tumultuous, but it wasn't that bad. You know, honestly, like we had some issues and some things. We weren't the poorest. We definitely weren't the richest. And growing up in Naples, I had a lot of rich friends and, a lot of things to compare myself to where I didn't add up early, stuff like that. But I did feel good at one point. We did have two TVs when I was growing up. I thought that was big, but we had them stacked on top of each other. One had sound and one had picture, so you had to keep them in unison to be able to keep up with the programs.
You just made you remind that was not very uncommon, obviously. I was just thinking, like, man, I had a TV too, and I was the remote,
Definitely. Yeah.
You need to get up and change the channel.
Yep.
So you said your dad was an alcoholic who found recovery on and off, but what was the general attitude in your household about alcohol and drugs?
It wasn't really talked about a whole lot, really. It was kind of just a thing that happened. My dad would drink off and on, and there was definitely drunkenness at home, and there was some kind of weird things that happened sometimes. I do remember one time he came rolling up into the driveway with the cops behind him, thinking that if he made it home, he was going to get out of a DUI, but he didn't. He didn't. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. But for the most part, everybody probably lived in fear, waiting to see what dad was going to do next, that kind of thing. But all in all, it was bad to us, but I mean, compared to the things that a lot of other people have, like it wasn't the worst way to come up at all. And my parents loved us and took care of us. We played sports. They took us to church. They put us into Catholic school. So we were definitely taken care of. We always had a roof over our head. We always were fed. Bills were always paid. As far as I know, we always had a car or two, and it wasn't so bad. But I definitely remember being afraid. I definitely grew up afraid. I was very shy as a child, very, very shy. People would always say, "Oh, Matt's so shy," blah blah blah. But I was just afraid. I was fearful of. I didn't know what was going to happen, and of course, I couldn't put words to any of that stuff. I was just didn't know what to say or what to do or where I should be or whatever.
It's kind of amazing how we recognize, I guess, emotions later on. We can kind of see
Oh
it,
yeah.
and we don't know what it is when we're young or how to put words to it. And we react to life in a certain way, really to protect ourselves, I think.
Right.
Do you remember the first time you felt the effects of alcohol or drugs?
Oh yeah, I definitely remember the first time I got drunk. I remember, but it's probably better to bring up the first time I got drunk on purpose. Was I'm pretty sure I was in 8th grade, and over at a friend's house, we just mixed a bunch of liquors and drank it, and got all goofy and drunk, and was sick for at least a couple days after it. But at the same time, I was elated. I finally felt some kind of relief in that. I didn't really know that. Now I can put colorful language to it and make it sound more poetic. But at the time, I just felt free for the first time. It was just like a freedom I felt in that drunken stupor that I had never experienced before. I wasn't worried. I didn't have anxiety. I didn't have fear of what was going to happen next. I probably should have had some fear and not should have done what I did. But, as a dumb little kid, that's kind of what happened. And it definitely created a little infamy too, because word got out that me and these other guys got drunk, and it was like, oh, those guys are, they got drunk. That's cool. And I just took that and ran with that kind of bad idea for a long time.
Listen, bad press is just as good as good press.
Unfortunately, that's how it rolls.
Especially as a kid, man, we're looking for ways to fit in or to be talked about or to be cool, I guess, for lack of a better word,
Absolutely. And I definitely remember, this was growing up in the 80s and 90s. And I remember watching Miami Vice and TV shows and thinking that kind of life and culture was cool. And I lived in South Florida. I thought, maybe I could be one of those cool guys like that. But I just ended up a average drunk. I never got that cool, not as cool as I thought I was in my own mind. But I kind of carried that same kind of stuff. That was in the end of middle school into high school. I went to a public high school and found drinking and other things. And I had arrived, really, like my high school time for the most of it was pretty great. I partied the way I wanted to party. I would have fun, all the kinds of fun that I wanted, and didn't have too many consequences. There was some weird stuff started to happen. I did start experiencing blackouts at a young age. I did consume. I was a heavy drinker. Like, I would consume a lot of alcohol. I wasn't just a little drinker. And I was not afraid to try other things, but alcohol was always my go-to. And I probably should do a little disclaimer real quick. Like, I am a AA fanboy and I love Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'll probably talk about Alcoholics Anonymous and say some different things about Alcoholics Anonymous. I am not a spokesperson. I am just a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. So take everything I say as just somebody's opinion. So with that, I found the lifestyle that I thought that I wanted in high school already. I already felt like I arrived, things were going good. I did still play sports at that time. Did pretty good. Still had decent enough grades that nobody bothered me. My parents were still married at this time too, in early high school. There was little things coming at me here and there. By my junior year, my parents got divorced. There was some other things happening at home. Drinking started taking on more and more of that's what I wanted to do more and more. Before my senior year in high school, I had a kind of a one-track mind, really. I wanted to drink and party. The other stuff kind of was just things that I had to do. It was getting a little weirder for sure. One of my friends had a party at his house. This was a senior year, early in the year, and shot himself in the head. And there was no reason for it, no anything, just a total crazy random act of destruction like that. However it happened, whatever it was, that's the way it went down. And it threw a lot of us for a loop, threw me for a loop. There was nothing I had that was going to process that stuff. Everybody around us, tried to throw counselors and different people at us and help us with things and get us to talk. I didn't know how to talk. I definitely could not get honest with anybody. I couldn't tell anybody how I really felt or anything. The only thing I knew to do was drink. So I just kept drinking more and more and more. That quickly spiraled. So that was like the beginning of my senior year. Somehow I graduated high school. Really don't know how. Somehow I got carried through. I don't know if people felt bad and pushed me through, but somehow it happened. I was doing pretty good in sports, mediocre at best and things, and barely lettered. I got kicked off. I was suspended half of the season for my senior soccer season because of acting out, being violent in games, and just erratic behavior. I was a total alcoholic behavior, and 17-year-old little man child, and not much else good happened after that. It just kept. I had no plans. I had no ambitions. I had nothing. The friends that I had partied with and were friends that I thought in high school, they had plans. They went to college, they went to different things, they were moving on, and I just didn't. I just wanted to party. I wanted to, like Bill Wilson called it, I wanted oblivion, man. That's what I wanted. I just wanted to hit oblivion every day. That was the thing. And that's what I tried for. And I had to do some work here and there. I had to do some different things here and there. And so then graduated high school, like I said, barely somehow. I was 18 by then. And somehow I started getting in trouble like instantly. As soon as I turned 18, I'm getting arrested like every weekend just about for really just bad behavior. I'm drinking under the age. I'm drunk and disorderly. I have paraphernalia. I have, little tiny amounts of weed on me or something, just kind of dumb stuff. But the kind of stuff a guy like me gets, that's just what happens when you're living like that, acting like that, breaking my parents' hearts like that. My dad was in and out of sobriety. He knew what I was doing. I wasn't going to listen to anything. I do remember in this time going to midnight mass. My mom wanted us to go to midnight mass. And I remember showing up to midnight mass wasted and stinking like liquor, stinking like weed, and just seeing that look on my mom's face. And just knew I was just ripping her heart out right then and there. But I had nothing. I had nothing else. This was the thing that was working, even though from everybody else looking in at me, they could tell this wasn't working at all. From my side of it, I'm like, this is it. This is the only thing I know. I didn't have anything else. So I'm getting piled up with these dumb charges. I'm on probation. it's like endless probation, one probation to another probation, and then going to another court hearing. I'm on house arrest, all this dumb stuff. Finally, I get to a point, of course, I'm having to do urine tests and things, and I'm supposed to be not using drugs, not drinking, and I'm always dirty. I'm always coming up dirty. So I get thrown into a rehab, court ordered into a rehab somehow. I don't know if it was the judges being lenient, whatever. So I get set up to go to a rehab called the Pines in Florida. I don't even know if it's still there. It was in Immokalee, Florida. And on the way there, that morning they called and left a message that I had to stop and take a drug test before I went in. Of course, that weekend before going in, I hammered it hard. And so there was no way they were taking me into this rehab. So they sent me to a detox center where I got to spend 7 days. And of course, my dad drove me to the detox center, and he was going to drive me to the rehab. So he was overjoyed and proud of his oldest son, just out of control, just completely out of control. So I'm in this rehab, or this detox before the rehab, and I meet this old dude. I don't know what his name was. He went by Daddy-O. He was some junkie. And I swear I had this like semi-lucid experience, like I was seeing myself in the future in this guy. I think he might have given me a cigarette or whatever. And to me, I was like, oh, you must be Yoda. This is me in the future. And so anyway, that was kind of weird. That didn't make me feel very warm and fuzzy. Go to rehab. Things were clicking in there. I am dry finally for the first time in probably at least 4 years. I'm actually sober for more than just a couple days. I hear some things. We're going to AA meetings. We're talking about steps. We're praying in the rehab. So I think I had a little bit of honest breakthroughs in that time, just a little bit. And I knew that what I was doing, clearly I could see the second half of that first step. Like my life was unmanageable, 100%. And I knew when I drank, it was unmanageable. So that part was apparent. I just thought I was too young. I thought I wasn't doing it right. I had all these problems. I had, this happened or that happened. And if you had my kind of life, you'd drink too. This was my solution. This is what worked. This is the only thing that got me by. So I held on to that kind of idea I probably stayed not drinking a couple months after I got out of there. I might have went to a meeting, I don't even remember, honestly. It's not like I had a sponsor or a group or anything like that and just hard charged into it. That was not the case at all. I actually had a kind of a half-ass rehab romance that I had to get out of as soon as I got out of there. That was more pressing than trying to get to an AA meeting. I had to get away from that thing. But so that kind of ran its course for a little bit. I did get into some work and different things, and next thing you know, I'm crashing a car. I had a truck that I was working with my dad in construction. All that's kind of sideline story, but he knew I was still dancing on the edge. I was on the edge, and there was little things happening. I'm collecting whiskey dents in my truck, and there was signs, and then somehow 4:00 in the morning, I flip my truck in the middle of a street, get this part of my face into a rear view mirror, and that's it. That just kind of sidelines my life for the next 3 months at least, and then it gets stretched out a little bit. So that was a rude awakening. Detoxed in the hospital a little bit and coming off of that. And this was the first time I had a really vicious, rude marker of my lifestyle all across my face. I mean, it was bad. It was very bad. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I really didn't, you know. So I'm gobbling up pain pills and smoking weed and finally nothing's working. I'm sure I ran out of pills. It's not like I was just decided I was going to turn some corner. I'm sure I ran out of the pills and they wouldn't give me any more. And I decided I was just going to go to AA. Like, what the hell else can I do? Life sucks. Can't drink. My face is destroyed. What else can I do? I'm just a bum, So I go in, pick up a white chip, get into the fellowship. Still being young, I was able to get over those effects kind of quick still, and really got sober on the fellowship a lot. Had some friends and some other guys that were young, close to my age. I think I was still mostly the youngest, and it became a little way of life. Like the little AA way of life kind of thing happened. Did that for a while. Got lonely though. I was getting lonely, and I had my AA friends. I had that life, but I was still lonely. Had all this, I don't know if it was just shame and fear, sadness, grief over my face that, I'm never going to have a girlfriend, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. So somewhere in all that twisted self-centeredness, of course, I come to the idea that I need to reconnect with an ex-girlfriend because I owe her some amends. Now, I certainly did not talk to my sponsor about making these amends, but I went directly to see her. And of course, she was more than happy to accept my amends graciously, and off started a little weird sideline that ended me up hanging out with some of those same old people and same old friends a little bit. And I wasn't drinking. They were drinking. I knew I was dancing on the edge there. And then one day we were out on an island and people were passing around some weed, and I got high. I thought, maybe this is what I need. I'd heard of this marijuana maintenance program, and I thought maybe that's what I need. And I remembered smoking the marijuana, and I felt like this big wave of fear just crashed right back over me. I had not realized how much fear I had already left behind. This was about a 2-year stint at this point. I didn't realize how far I had come in that short time. And all of a sudden, it just all crashed back on top of me. At this time, I was living with another guy in the program. We were renting a house together. And I got home, stayed up all night. I was like trying to come up with my plan. How do I not tell anybody what happened? How do I keep this a secret? I didn't drink. Does anybody need to know about this? And it was wrecking me. So the next morning, of course, I see my housemate and I'm like, I got to tell you something, man. I got high yesterday, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, let's go to a meeting. So that day we go to a meeting, get my chip, get back in. And I'm surrendered at that point. I'm surrendered. I'm like, this stuff doesn't work. Nothing works. This AA thing has to work. I'm going to find a way to make it work. Get in, still doing fellowship, working some steps. I do get a sponsor at this point. Things are going pretty good. It is kind of like, I kind of think of it as my little golden boy period at this point. It was like, the economy was good. It was like everything we touched was good. It was, I think anybody was making money then. And I fell right into that category. Of course, I'm sure I thought it was more about me than it really was, but it was kind of easy sobriety. It was easy living. There wasn't a lot of hurdles. There was not a lot of hurdles. Met my wife, my first wife during this time. She was a high school girlfriend. Met her in the rooms, and I knew it was God's will that we should be married. So we got married, and I don't think we had well, I know for a fact we did not have all the skills necessary to be a good married couple. There was some things. We did get pregnant right off the bat. We ended up having 3 wonderful kids together that are fantastic. Her and I are pretty good friends today. We can still talk, but we both had learning to do. We both had some lessons. So we're in Florida. We're married. We're kind of like the little AA couple, pretty flaky, but that's how it was. And then my dad and I decided we're going to move to Tennessee. There wasn't a great discussion about it. I really still to this day don't know if my wife even really wanted to go to Tennessee or if she just went along with it, because it ended up not good. So we moved to Tennessee. We sell everything out, moved to Tennessee, build houses for ourselves there. We're living in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains in Walland. So we have one small child. My wife is pregnant with the second one, has the second one, and then we ended up having a third child. And in all of this stuff, I'm not drinking, I'm not going to meetings. My dad's not drinking. He's not going to meetings. My brother ends up joining us out there, and we're just working. And I feel like I'm building this great future for my family, my young little family. I have all these weird inflated ideas of who I was and what I was doing for my family. And it was getting to a point where nobody appreciated it. It's not what she wanted. She definitely didn't want me to be gone, 10 hours a day working. I was working my butt off for her, but I don't think that's what she wanted. And it definitely wasn't healthy. It was a bad situation. I did go to a couple meetings in Maryville during that time. And of course, it wasn't like Naples AA. Everything was a little different. The meeting structure was a little different. They said the Our Father at the end of the meeting so slow. I just remember thinking like, wow, that is the slowest Our Father prayer I've ever heard in my life. But those people were staying sober. They had a higher power and a God in their lives, and they were doing stuff. And I was hurting. I just didn't know it. I thought I could cover it up with work. It's like I had to go through in my experiences all these different things to see what I could fix myself with next. Could I do it with this? Could I do it with that? Money, things, stuff, whatever. And at the end of the day, for me, none of those things have worked. None of them have worked. So at some point in all that, I go to see my brother. My brother moves to Birmingham, Alabama. He's getting married over there. And I'm going to go see him for the weekend. And I know I'm going to drink. I just know it. So I fly over there, have a drunken weekend with him, come back home. And the next week, the wife and I go out to dinner. And I tell her, by the way, last weekend I drank and I didn't die. So I think it's okay. And she says, great, let's start drinking. And we order a bottle of wine, and then it's off to the races for the next couple of years. And just nothing good to report, just nothing good to report. A lot of bad behavior on my part, a lot of dangerous situations, a lot of and somehow I'm working through all this stuff, barely, sick as a dog. I did have a kind of job where I could drink if I needed to, out on construction sites. And it was just nothing good. There was nothing good going on. I definitely didn't have any connection with a higher power in my life. And which is kind of funny because I could back up just a little bit, because before that point, like in my golden boy time, I never read the chapter We Agnostics in the big book. I remember distinctly thinking, I'm not agnostic. I know who God is. I got this figured out. And in my golden boyness, I for sure thought that I was special. You know, all those things that people had said to me in my whole life, like, you've got potential, you're going to do great things, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. I thought I was living it. I thought I was finally arrived somehow. I thought it was really me. I forgot that it really didn't have that much to do with me. It was like the more of me I had to get out of the way, then things actually happened. But I forgot. Restless, irritable, discontent. You know, it's the same thing every time. And then I need to drink. That's my only solution. That's the best idea I have. As smart as I can be in so many things, or strategy, you know, whatever I want to concoct, however I want to paint the picture. When it comes down to it, when it's me and alcohol, I am a dumbass. Like, I just don't have anything. Without a higher power in charge of my life and keeping me away from that drunk, it's stacked. I don't stand a chance. So everything's happening. I mean, this whole kind of, I thought I was building this new life, this special little world where everybody's going to be happy, and my kids were going to love me, and my wife was going to adore me because of this and that. It's all just crumbling. It's all crumbling. It's like total, it's all rotted at the core. And I'm not a good husband. I'm not a good father. And then it comes to a day, my wife was out of town with our youngest, and I am drinking all weekend. That morning in my shop, in my basement, I'm ready to end it all. I'm looking at my woodworking tools and thinking about putting my arm under a saw and just ripping my arm up and just bleeding out as fast as possible, because this is just not working. I'm thinking AA doesn't work for me. Drinking's not working for me. Life isn't working for me. You know, I'm back to the oblivion just isn't cutting it anymore. I need something else. I'm in this weird half lucid state. And I think it was a Monday, but I don't even freaking know. I don't know what day it was, honestly. I hear this song come through on the radio. I don't remember the radio being on. I don't remember turning the radio on, nothing. Anyway, there's this crossover Christian song by this gal, Mindy Smith, called Come to Jesus. And I'm not a Christian music fan. Like, it's not like a station I would have on the radio, but they played this song on regular rock stations. You know, it's like a crossover song. Somehow this song is playing in the background. Somehow this song gets into my ears, and somehow I kind of have this moment of clarity in this half lucid state. And don't cut my arm, thank God. I don't need any more of those scars. And I just know I got to go back to AA. I knew where the meeting was near me out there, and I go back to AA. Somehow, I think it was in May 2004. I'm not sure what happened that whole month, but my sobriety date is June 30th, 2004. So I'm getting sober. The wife, my life, my family, my household, everything else is in 100% meltdown mode. Nobody gives a shit that I'm getting sober. Everybody thinks it's a ploy to get me out of trouble at this moment or whatever it is. And everything goes from bad to worse. Whole lot of pain that I'd never experienced before with the family stuff in that situation, moving around houses, selling that house, just all kinds of stuff happens. All kinds of stuff happens. And I'm going to meetings, talking to different people. I find a sponsor, a new sponsor, somebody that I can work with. I'm not happy. I am definitely not happy. And I definitely don't feel like the golden boy in AA this time. I definitely feel like, WTF. There's got to be more to it than this. There's got to be more to it than this. But I don't know what else to do. The other stuff isn't working. AA's got to work is pretty much my only thing at this point. So I'm doing what the sponsor told me to do. I'm hurting bad enough that I'm doing everything. I'm saying a third step prayer every day in the morning when I get up. I'm going throughout my day. I'm pausing when agitated. I'm praying all day. And I was agitated all the time, man. And I was in pain all the time. There was a lot of stuff that happened in that span of time. We, of course, did not reconcile. We did get divorced. So I got to walk through divorce early in sobriety and stay sober. Very painful. Lots of tears, lots of prayers, lots of yelling at God, my higher power. I am so thankful for the higher power concept that AA talks about. Like I said, I've been in Catholic school and Catholic church and different things, and I never had a connection with a God until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. The higher power that I came to know in Alcoholics Anonymous has changed my life around in this last surrender, more than anything I ever experienced before in my life. And I know people can find this in church. I'm not trying to say it's something against church. It's just, for me, I had to get to some other depth of despair, And like John said, John Winnick, like, I had to be beat and beat and beat into that state of reasonableness. And when it comes to alcohol and things and my selfishness and self-centeredness, like, I am slow. I'm so slow. But anyway, God's working in my life in this stuff. I'm staying sober. I'm in all kinds of pain. This time, too, we're coming into the great financial crisis. And so during all of this stuff, too, after I get sober, I decided I need to start my own company, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's in construction. I'm leveraged to the hilt. I have to go bankrupt. So I just got divorced. Now I'm bankrupt. I feel like a loser, like, seriously. And by a lot of outside metrics, I am a loser. There's a lot of ticks on that side of the board. I'm going to meetings. I'm praying. I'm talking to my sponsor. I'm doing steps. I ended up getting a job with this commercial contracting company, putting in a development in Oak Ridge. And I was able to go to an AA meeting every day at lunch. 99% of the time, I was able to go to a meeting. And then at night, I was able to come home and go to divorce care at a Baptist church and start to learn about my relationship issues and some of that stuff and things like that. And I'm praying and I'm going to meetings and I'm talking to my sponsor. And it's just trudge, We say at the end, like, we're trudging the road of happy destiny. I'm just trudging the road. I'm like, I'm not happy. I'm just trudging, just trudging. And I do feel better about myself finally at this point, doing the steps, in the step work. I'm getting rid of some of that old stuff, getting through some of that shame, getting through some of those feelings of inadequacy. I know we joked about it earlier, like I don't feel good enough, but there is still some of that stuff today, honestly. And that stuff may never go, but it's not the extremes that it used to be by any means, by any means. And I will definitely, when possible, deflect with humor about it and not be honest. So that's just how it is. There was, at this time too, a powerful thing is I had to make amends with that wife, and she did not want to receive him. She knew what I was doing, of course, and it was not well received, and had to just eat it, pretty much. I had to sweep away my side of the street with somebody telling me that I can't sweep any of it away and that it was all my fault and yada, yada, yada. And that's all it was. I had to take that to my higher power. Pause when agitated. Pause when you just hate everything. Pause when you can't take it anymore. And in all of this stuff too, so much pain, like letting go is just becoming like more and more beat into me. That state of reasonableness is just, it's what has to happen somehow. It's not even like I'm choosing it. It's not like I was altruistic and decided, what I really need? I want to become spiritual and I want to just let go of things. It's like everything is just being ripped away from me. And with claw marks, I love that. When you hear that, everybody's like, yeah, I let go. It's perfect. And that's exactly how it was, it's just, but I didn't drink, didn't drink. I talked to somebody about it. I went to a meeting, tried to help somebody else if I could. And somehow this stuff passes. Slowly, but slowly, but slowly. Eventually get up to Knoxville. I was living in Merville for people from that area.
Yeah, Merville.
Shout out to Merville. Get up to Knoxville. And so knowing that when I moved from Florida to Tennessee, I flaked out and did not get into AA and find that AA fellowship and network right away. As soon as I moved to Knoxville, I just started hitting all the meetings, finding different people, getting into everything I could, going to P40. I had Tom Wells was my sponsor, and he was a cool dude, man. Anybody in a meeting that would say, when he didn't know what to do, he'd just lay down on the floor and ask God, what do I do next? What's next? I remember hearing that and I was like, holy shit, man, I need to talk to this guy because I don't know what to do next. He's got answers. He just quits and gives up. I need to learn to give up quicker. I need that. And so I worked with him for a little bit before he passed. And then it was at his funeral. I saw Mike and I started paying attention to Mike K and talked with him and ended up getting into the Special K secret meeting. And I definitely felt like my time in that meeting, like my sobriety just skyrocketed, man. Being around guys, being honest, being accountable to one another, sharing struggles, sharing heartaches, guys coming in, guys not making it, we had guys die, and just such a blessing. I mean, I could see God, higher power, and all of it, just everywhere. It's just dripping with it. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling pretty happy in this stuff, By this time too, I had remarried. Absolute blessing for me. I guess it is for her too. She says it is. We're still married today. And she's never seen me drink. She doesn't know me as that guy for for better or for worse. I don't know. I do remember telling her in the beginning that if I ever tell you like it's okay now and I can drink or it's not like it was, that's bullshit. Just so you know, if I try to pull that kind of crap, that's an absolute lie, and don't let me get away with it. And thankfully, I have not done that to this day. But that was being able to have a different relationship, being able to have somebody that I can communicate with, someone, it says in the book, we have an inability to form a true partnership with other human beings. And because for me, the way I see it, my selfishness and my self-centeredness are just always there, cutting me out from somebody else. It's always in there blocking me. How do I let somebody in? How do I be there for somebody else? How do I think of somebody else before me? Day by day, little by little, that higher power just does these things for me that I can't do for myself. I can't think my way into that kind of stuff. Somehow it's just happening. So in this time too, my dad passes away in 2015. He dies. Suddenly, it wasn't like he got sick and everybody's, waiting for him to go. It was a sudden thing. Got to carry all that stuff through, take care of everything, sober. Got to have the send off that my dad had asked for, sober. And that was powerful. There's still some other family dynamics with my brother and sister at this time. They're both struggling with their own stuff. Fast forward a little bit to 2018, my brother ODs for the last time. So 2018, I'm driving down to Alabama and I'm calling Mike on the phone saying, Mike, this is what happened. And he's praying for me, telling me he supports me, and telling me to drive easy. God's got this, And somehow praying, letting go, asking for that next right action, we can get through that too. We do the things for my brother down there, and I gave some kind of a little talk for my brother at a Catholic church, and I think I said some things I probably shouldn't have said in the church, but everybody said it was good anyway, and ripped my heart out. Absolutely ripped my heart out. But somehow I could get through that sober too, God, I don't want to. I did not want to. But at the same token, I wasn't trying to escape. I wasn't trying to look for oblivion. I wasn't trying to not feel all those feelings, because God, they were big. And I remember praying something similar to that, like, this is too much. This is too much, God, for me. But I know they're not too much for you. I know you can carry me through it, little by little, step by step. So all this stuff is happening. Getting used to, I kind of feel like it's been a time of getting used to surrender quicker, surrender easier, I know we've talked about letting go, and even that action of flipping my hands to let things go, to invite my higher power in, all that stuff. Like, I need more. I need that power. It's still the same today as it's always been in my whole life. Lack of power is my dilemma. It truly is, in so many forms. I just don't have it. Now, instantly in my first thought, I always think I do, but But then that next millisecond later, I come to my senses because of my higher power. Like, I don't have that. I don't have that. I remember when we were doing the meditation meeting at the church over there. That was a great time. Some people got it, some people didn't, but I thought it was great. I had a blast. I had an absolute blast when we were doing that.
I did too. I have to tell this because this is how I always think of that time. Because and at that time, Mike had passed away, and I had asked you to be my sponsor because I think people listening to you tell your story, Matt, and where you're at, that they understand why at this point. So, anyway, I'd said to Matt, he was talking about meditation, and I said, I don't really know how to meditate. That's not my thing. He said, oh. I said, okay, well, let's start a meeting. I'm like, no, see, we're supposed to have like one-on-one sessions, and he's like, and then, so we started this meeting, and I remember when you said, we're going to meditate for 20 minutes. And I'm like, did you say 2 minutes? Said, no, 20. And we did. And we did that meeting for probably at least, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or so. And then we kind of got knocked off by COVID. But
yep.
It was such a powerful it was really a powerful time for me as well. It was how I learned how to meditate, and it's because of you.
Yep.
Anyway.
And it's easier for people to meditate in a group. This is something that doesn't get, it's known by other people in Eastern philosophies and different things, but in a group setting, there's a group energy. And when everybody's tuned into that same thing, it's a little easier to get into it yourself, because we all have the same thing, trying to meditate. When I'm trying to quiet down and find that inner place, it's all that stuff. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Da, 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 da. But that's just like everything else. We just take the time. And then maybe for that last minute, we might get a little respite from that self-talk. There's that little break. And that just creates that sending off place. It starts growing and growing and growing from there. So this probably would be a good place to promote the idea of prayer and meditation as outlined in the book to people. I've met a lot of people in AA over the years, and people have all kinds of different relationships with higher powers. I hear a lot of people afraid of meditation. Please don't be afraid of meditation. Please just start. Create that space. Do it like the book says. It gives you all kinds of instruction. It says in your morning meditation, you should be meditating in the morning. That's the clear direction. If you're not taking that time for yourself in the morning, you're shortchanging yourself. You really are. Your higher power wants to connect with you. Your higher power is there. We got to make that space. We got to make that time. And the fruits are so worth it. So worth it. Whether you want to call it equanimity, you want to call it just peace, you want to call it being able to pause, being able to just slow down, to pull yourself back. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. Especially in today's, the way I see it, everything today is we just keep ramping up. Everything keeps going more, everything's trying to fill us with all this other stuff all the time, faster. That doesn't work for me that way. I need something else, that stuff, the stuff that I see, this is just my opinion again, the things that the world is trying to fill me up with, that's not what's going to keep me sober. It's just not, I have to be careful what I let into my temple, my vessel, I can't be letting in all kinds of violence and TV shows and different things and then expect to be a peaceful person. I can't be subjecting myself to all kinds of heinous things in my senses and expect to live peaceful. It's just not how it works. I got to be continuously cleaning, refining, and purifying myself with my higher power's help. My higher power is doing this stuff. And it's not that it just becomes some easy deal, but it's that one day at a time grind. It's trudging that road little by little. Things get better. Somehow I get better. I remember one time, so after I was separated, of course, from my first wife, and having to go pick up my kids, racing around, because I had things to do and I had to be somewhere, blah blah blah. And I remember racing to pick up my kids, and they just didn't care. They wanted to be at their mom's house because that's where all their friends were, and I'm pissed off because they're not happy to see me. They're not elated to see their great father. And I was ranting on about something. And one of my kids said, "Dad, why are you so angry? Why are you always so angry?" And I was probably, I don't know, 12 years sober or something at this time. And that just stabbed me right in the heart, because I didn't know. I was like, I don't know why I'm so angry. I can tell right in this moment, so right at that time, I was able to make amends and say I was sorry, that this was not the time or the place to talk like that. And I was trying to get something else out of that situation, which wasn't there. And I am angry. I just need help. I need prayer. I still have hurts that are not healed. And I heard that from one of my little kids, like the higher power uses everything. I would say too, like, I have a great relationship with my kids today. My kids they've heard me give my lead before. Whether or not that's good, I don't know. But that's what's happened. We can talk about things. Nobody is exhibiting any alcoholic or addictive behaviors. So I don't know. And it's not that I think people have to be sober. I'm not like some kind of weirdo that thinks that sobriety is the only way. For me, it's the only way. For me, it is 100% the only way. I admitted to myself, that my innermost self, that there is no other way but sobriety for me. And I live with that today. And I believe that one day at a time, that's possible, and that's what the AA affords us. One day at a time, contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. I have to maintain that spiritual condition by not letting all these other things into my mind, keeping my mind on sobriety, keeping my mind on higher things, keeping my mind on how can I be of service to somebody else. That's even a further goal. And it happens, that's happened for me along the way. I've been able to help people along the way share the message. The rest of my little what's happened story, my wife and I ended up leaving Knoxville. So after my dad died, my brother died, I did do a Vipassana, which was pretty deep, a 10-day silent retreat thing. COVID happened. It's like I needed to look for something else. I needed to find something else. So we sold everything. My wife and I, on a whim, sold everything and moved to Ecuador. Just completely dumped it all and took off on an adventure, just an adventure. We had no what happens next. There was no what happens next to this story. It was, we're going to Ecuador. So we went to Ecuador, lived in Ecuador, went to great meetings in Ecuador. This was something I should say too. So because of that earlier stuff, when I moved from Florida to Tennessee and I didn't get right into meetings, before I moved to Ecuador and even visited Ecuador, I did have a contact in Alcoholics Anonymous in Ecuador. Gerard, he just died last year with 34 years. He lived in Cuenca, Ecuador. There's great sobriety in Ecuador. There is a great expat community with, if I had to guess, I would say the average sobriety is at least 30 years in those types of groups. And we might just be like it talks about in the book, the businessmen just lolling in the Florida sunshine, talking about the whales of the world, or however it goes. But somehow, even in that, we keep each other sober. We can share the message. We can carry the message to other alcoholics that we do get newcomers there. Have been able to sponsor people in Ecuador. It was a good time. It came to a point, my wife and I felt like we were spinning our wheels. We didn't have a next plan. Most people there are retired, or most people are retirees, at that certain age. And we just did some kind of a weird thing. So eventually, this past year, I actually moved back to the USA the end of November. And now my wife and I are here in Ohio, which has been a bittersweet. It's been bittersweet coming back to the USA. There's a lot of great things about the USA. The bacon here is astounding. The way the infrastructure is handled and the things are taken care of on most scales is way better than a lot of the world does things. There are other things that are a little trickier. I would say I've had a hard adjustment. This has been a hard adjustment it's been about 7 months now at this time. And I miss my lifestyle there in Ecuador, even though I wasn't contributing to anything. I was kind of existing. I would go to meetings. I would go to cafes and have conversations with people. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Not working for 4.5 years created some other issues. So that's probably some of my dis-ease at this point in my journey. But even in that, all that stuff is working out. Just like everything else that I've been able to go through in sobriety in my life. I can't see how to get through it. I just know I will get through it. I trust that my higher power will carry me through it. We make that deal in the morning every day. As soon as I come to consciousness, before I even get out of bed, I say my 3rd step prayer. I just try to start it off as quick as possible. I want to get it going and tap into that power to carry me through, to fill in all the blanks, man, fill in all the places where I'm inadequate. I just don't have enough. And I've had that kind of stuff, readjusting to life here. This is not exactly in all the things that I would want it to be, but damn, it's way better than the way it could be. Way better. Super grateful for so many of these things. Super grateful for my wife and this journey, having somebody that's crazy enough to go along with me in these things. And we're doing work together up here, and things are working out. Still have not ever missed out, way back when I first got sober this time, and this last surrender, I said went through a divorce, I went bankrupt, things started disappearing, right? If you haven't gone through bankruptcy, you don't know, but like those trucks that you have, all that stuff, they just come and start getting it. Like they don't care. Somebody's getting paid to come get it. And you're just watching it all disappear. And you're like, how in the hell is this going to work? how am I not going to end up on the street just starving, ridiculed by my children, by my family, by my community, whatever, fill in the blank, whatever kind of weird stuff you want to self-hate with. None of that stuff happened, man. None of that stuff happened. Just like I said, somehow I got a job, in a crappy ass economy at that time. Somehow I got a pretty kick-ass job that took care of everything I needed and afforded me the chance to go to an AA meeting every day at lunchtime. Every day. I mean, that's freaking nuts. But that's a higher power working, getting it done in spite of myself, My best ideas are always like disaster. Whoa, this isn't going to work. But that's not the case, man. That's not the case. And I'm not a big proponent of like overdoing it the other way, but I just try to trust that my higher power is going to do this. My higher power is going to work this stuff out. And it's totally possible. I have one other thing to share to get off my chest here. So I am in Ohio. And in a way, I kind of felt like I was coming to the AA Mecca for Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have found a lot of AA meetings here that are not very good AA meetings. Not very good AA meetings. I know this sounds critical and sounds weird to some people if you haven't experienced it, but there's a lot of other things happening with other addictions that are, for my eyes, it's overtaking AA and the AA message. AA can't help everybody. It can't. That's my personal belief. That's what it says in the traditions. We have a singleness of purpose statement for a reason. We have traditions. There's a lot of meetings that are happening that are not real AA meetings, but they're calling themselves AA meetings. And there's meetings too that are outnumbered with people from drug courts just coming to get a paper signed. And I know that people can find recovery in different ways, but there's something weird happening. I also have a belief that my brother that overdosed wasn't being helped in Alcoholics Anonymous. It wasn't his real addiction. It was one of his problems. And even though he was doing inventories, he was doing the things, he was going to meetings, it wasn't working the same way. He's not getting fed the right way. I'm not an expert. I know this is a contentious subject for people, but it's something I have to talk about and share with other people. Like, AA is for alcoholics. I did other things, but my first choice to numb out or kill myself is alcohol, and that's different. When people are into other things and sharing other stuff, I really have no idea what they're talking about. Now, we can talk about other things in other types of meetings. If we're talking about spirituality, we're talking about a higher power, we're talking about steps in general, we can find some crossover there. But when we're in an AA meeting, it's got to be with alcohol, man. It's got to be with alcohol. And I know Alcoholics Anonymous works. I know we have the track record to prove it. And there's plenty of people that have been sober a long time. And I don't know what to do with this situation. It's not like I think we should just turn people away. I'm not trying to say that either, but there's got to be something. We can't dilute this thing that we have to this weird point where nobody's being fed. We can't do that. That's not going to help anybody. So I have had to search around where I live, and the town that I live in actually has 3 meetings at one place. It's one group, and it's those type of meetings where I can't go to them. I can't go to those meetings. They call themselves AA meetings, but it's not really an AA meeting. So I have to go to other towns around me to find an AA meeting. So I know that's kind of a little weird blurb at the end, but I'm a fanboy of AA. I love AA. You know, all the people in my life that have meant the most to me and that I love the most, besides my wife, are from AA. You know, it's my AA people. I see God, I see my higher power in AA every time, every time. I see it in addicts too. I'm not trying to turn away the addicts. I'm just saying we got to figure something else out, man. We can't just jam it. We can't jam this thing down the AA, you know, whatever it is. I don't know. I think that's all for my blurb.
I think it was a great blurb, and you made me think when you were talking about in the end. You know, Mike always would say, "Respect the traditions." You know, if you're in an AA meeting, you talk about alcohol. If you're in an NA meeting, you can talk about, you talk about your drugs and alcohol. And one of the things that I've been learning about recently, shout out to Jason and Margaret, is DAA, which has gotten permission from AA. It's Drug Addicts Anonymous, which has gotten permission from AA to actually use the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 and 12 as part of their programs, what they use. And so there's definitely an option out there to use the big book and the 12 and 12 in the DAA meetings. I mean, they formally asked AA World Services, which is kind of a cool thing, and it sounds like maybe some of the meetings you're talking about that you referenced would be better suited to be DAA meetings, which is just starting to kind of, seems like over the last 10 years, started to get a little bit of traction. Right. It's not grown yet, of course, but it's but
there could be something.
Could be something.
It reminds me too. I remember getting sober in Florida in the so this was the early 90s. It was the Andas. Everybody in the meeting be like, I'm an alcoholic and I'm a this and I'm a that and I'm a da 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 da. And that makes sense when you're getting sober in the beginning, and we got to love people where they are. We got to help people find a place to start. But after you've been sober for a length of time and you've worked some steps, you got to find a way to get to that more important piece of this journey that we're on. Like, we got to be seeking that conscious contact with a higher power. That's what our literature says. Daily, we're trying to find that conscious contact with a higher power to make us the best service to other people as possible. So part of why I don't stay in those local meetings is because I get frustrated. I get disturbed by what the whole thing is going on. I'm like, this is not right. I don't want to be the weirdo, angry, quote unquote sober guy at that meeting. So I don't go to those meetings. I want those people to find sobriety like I've found. I don't think they're going to find it there, in my opinion. Now, do I think I'm right? I don't know, but that's something that's out there. And I'm not the only one that's talking about it up here. It's a thing that's happening. And I've heard about it in Florida from my sponsor in Florida. And those kind of things are just troubling me, I don't know how to fix them. I'm not saying I know anything for the solution. I know that the higher powers working all this stuff and it's going to figure something out, but I just have to say something.
No, and I appreciate that you did say something. I mean, I think we see that everywhere, and there's different thoughts behind it. I think part of it is probably that we're starting to see a decline in alcohol use in Absolutely. The next generation, which is really remarkable. But in that decline in alcohol use, you're seeing an increase in other substances. Yep. So what does that mean long term? I don't know, man. I'm with you. I don't know, but
I don't know. The one thing I have seen, so I've tried to help different people. It's a different from what I've seen, in my opinion, there's a different headspace clearing out time that happens from somebody that's coming in off alcohol and somebody that's coming in off other substances. Like, I'm no pharmacist. I have nothing, I know nothing about that stuff other than, what they did to make me feel goofy, but it's not the same. It's not the same sobering somebody up that I've experienced.
No, I appreciate you bringing it up. And hey, if you're out there listening and, and you want to offer your comments or, please do,
And just pray for us, pray for us. I'm praying for the alcoholics and addicts that are suffering. I'm not trying to cut anybody out, but when it's just in a meeting that's specifically for Alcoholics Anonymous, it's not right. We got to figure out a better way.
Well, man, thank you so much, Matt, for sharing your story, your experience, your strength, your hope, and just being you.
I hope somebody gets something out of it. The higher power's got to bring something, because I ain't got nothing.
Well, I can tell you this: there's my brother in New Jersey who is not one of us, but I brought Matt. One of the things Matt had me do that just really, it was like a symbolic turning it over, where you put you'd hold both your hands in front of you, palms up, and you just turn it over, and you turn your hands over at the same time you say turn it over. And I have my brother up in New Jersey, shout out to my brother, who does that, and he will call me, goes, I'm trying to turn it over.
You know what? If that doesn't work, we can be like the old guy on Seinfeld. Serenity now.
I think the lesson is surrender quicker. Quicker.
Man.
So,
Amen.
Well, I can't let you go without doing our rapid fire questions, Matt. I know you have been anxiously waiting these.
I'm ready, baby. I'm ready.
All right. What is your favorite recovery slogan?
Favorite recovery slogan has got to be one day at a time, with this too shall pass right up there with it.
What is your least favorite recovery slogan?
Think. That is crap, but so be it.
What do you think is your sobriety superpower?
Giving up, and thankful, being grateful that my higher power kept me alive long enough to learn to surrender again and again and again.
If you could say one thing to your former self, what would it be?
It's going to get better, man. It's going to get better.
What song do you play to lift your spirits when you need a boost?
I'd say my favorite song is Conversations with the Devil by Ray Wiley Hubbard. Check it out.
I will have to. If you could grant yourself one wish to help with your recovery, what would it be?
Personally, to surrender quicker and to be of more service.
What step do you love the most?
2.
What step do you love the least?
1.
What is one of your favorite movies?
Big Lebowski.
And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
We told you so.
I like it, man. Thank you so much, Matt. It's really been a lot of fun and an honor, and I love you, brother.
Love you too, Joe.
And for the rest of you out there, if there's something in this episode that meant something to you, please share it with one person who needs some hope today. A new episode of The Cup of Joe Show drops every Thursday at noon. You can listen anytime at thecupofjoeshow.net. or on any of your favorite podcast apps: Podbean, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and more. Just search for The Cup of Joe Show. Don't forget the. And if you're looking for daily encouragement in your recovery journey, subscribe to our friends at thedailyponderables.com, delivering inspiration to your inbox every morning. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share because someone out there needs to hear this today. Have a good day, everybody.
It's just a laid-back vibe, baby.
We hope you enjoyed today's Experience, Strength, and Hope. We are so grateful you decided to join us. Please share this episode with someone who might need it. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, no matter where you are in your recovery journey, you are not alone. Reach up and reach out to someone. Please do not suffer in silence. Until next time, let's take it 1 minute, 1 hour, and 1 day at a time. Thanks for listening to The Cup of Joe Show.